us later after the... But you'll say the words up.
Good morning, yes. Good morning. Please rise in body and our spirit and join in singing hymn number 146. Soon the day will arrive. Good morning, and welcome to summer in Sarasota. My name is Mary Lou Keller, and I serve this congregation as a member of the worship committee and as co-chair of both the Rainbow Alliance and the Green Team. If you're sensing a pattern, you're right. I like bright colors, good causes, and saying yes with a smile. We especially want to welcome our visitors both on campus and over live stream. We invite our visitors to participate in any of our events, and we welcome you to find out more about us and Unitarian Universalism by registering on our virtual guest book, which you can find via a link on the homepage of our website at uusrq.org. If you're here in person, there's a sign-up sheet for visitors out at the welcome table. And if you sign up, we will send you our weekly newsletter and Zoom links to our virtual events. We invite everyone to join us for refreshments and conversation after the service. They've been moved to the Lexau wing for the summer months. The refreshments. Conversation can be anywhere. Members, please be sure to greet any visitors on your way out. They will have on name tags, paper name tags, and first-time visitors have the red borders. You never know who might become your new friend. Some announcements today. Join our Democracy Action Team at 3 p.m. this morning right here in the sanctuary for a screening of the film Bad Faith 2026, Christian Nationalism in Power. This movie is based on the Bad Faith movie shown last year, but it's been edited to address the impacts of the Trump administration's policies. There will also be a talkback after the movie screening featuring Ann Nelson, author of Shadow Network, and she'll be joining us via Zoom on the big screen. And please stop by the social justice table and visit the new democracy team. And June is Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. The Rainbow Alliance and Rainbow SRQ are excited to have a table at Project Pride's Silver Pride event next Saturday, and we would love to see you all there. Come celebrate with us at the Senior Friendship Center on Saturday, June 6th from noon to 4 p.m. It is a lot of fun, and it's free. It's open to all adults, so bring a friend and stop by. There will be drag queens, dancing, and heartfelt tributes. It was really touching last year. We're also looking for a few enthusiastic members to help staff our table. If you can spare a couple of hours, please reach out to me or Nadine Schwab or Susie Brooklocker. It's a wonderful way to connect with the community and show your pride. We hope to see you all there. And now the choir from our new seating. Old habits.
He didn't get the memo.
And I'm in the choir. In honor of Gay Pride Month, this is a poem, Beacons, by Kimi Floyd Reisch. Beloveds, we were never meant to hide in closets, and we were never to be spoken of in whispered corners by a world filled with others afraid of their own reflections. We are here, heirs of a theology that says love is love. The soul is not gendered, that covenants live in hearts, not courtrooms. Laws can be cruel and narrow, but our faith remains wide, widening still more until every child hears their pronouns in liturgies. And every parent of a trans child hears their entire congregation reflect back, "You are not alone," in the face of their fears. We have always been here, from pulpits to picket lines, from the ancestors you called heretics to our kitchen tables, where we sat with chosen families, speaking our truths into becoming real. This world may pass bans, overturn laws, rewrite constitutions, threaten us, but our marriages were holy before they were licensed, and our identities were sacred before we had names. Today, again, and every day, bless those coming out and those staying in. Bless the drag. Bless the transitioning. Bless the questioning. Bless the kinfolk. Bless our chosen families, and bless us, because we have faced ourselves, loved ourselves, saw ourselves, and declared that we are beauty and goodness and unicorns with a bit of rainbow and a lot of heart. We gather now in the wake of their efforts to erase as a sign that we are not so easy to erase. Literally, love becoming. We were never meant to hide. We were always meant to blaze. As we light the chalice, please join me in affirming our value of justice, which is printed in your order of service and will be displayed on the screen behind me. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large.
Good morning, everyone. So, today's story is Chicken Little, the Fox and the Hare, a modern fairy tale written by Catherine Bonner. Chicken Little sat at his computer desk deep in the basement of his mom's house. He was a bit of a nerdy birdie, and he loved to browse the internet for unusual or interesting news. As he sat there scrolling, suddenly a Fox breaking news report opened up with the headline, "The sky is falling! The sky is falling!" Well, Chicken Little's heart beat a bit faster with that dastardly news, and he felt compelled to share it with all his Facebook friends. But he knew he needed to do more. The sky was falling, for goodness sake, and the world was in terrible danger. So Chicken Little ran up the stairs and caught his mom, Henny Penny, staring at her phone. "Mom, the sky is falling," he declared. "I know," she replied. "I just saw it in my notifications," not realizing it was Chicken Little's post. "It must be true," she said. "It's on the internet. Quick, we have work to do. Get on your running shoes." So Chicken Little and Henny Penny ran to Wall Street Mart to stock up on all the essentials for a world disaster. And as they approached the doors to the store, they came upon their friend Ducky Lucky, who was running too. "Hi, Ducky Lucky, what are you doing?" asked Henny Penny. "Don't you know the sky is falling?" he exclaimed. "It's all over the internet, so it must be true." "I'm getting all my supplies before anyone else can," he said, almost knocking Henny Penny down. "Well, I never," huffed Henny Penny. "Quick, Chicken Little, get a cart and load it up with paper towels and toilet paper. I'll get the water and the cans of food. See you back here, ASAP." So Chicken Little and Henny Penny dashed around Wall Street Mart like linebackers from a football team, pushing and shoving to fill their carts sky high. Their baskets were so full they almost ran over their friend Turkey Lurkey, who was standing in the aisle agog at all the frenzy. "What's going on?" asked Turkey Lurkey, jumping out of the way of a speeding shopper. "Haven't you heard?" said Chicken Little. "The sky is falling and we're all doomed. It's all over the internet." "Well, I haven't been on the internet lately. It's just too much drama for me," said Turkey Lurkey. "But who said it on the internet? I haven't seen any evidence that the sky is falling." The Fox breaking news," yelled Chicken Little as he pushed his cart to the checkout. "So it must be true." "But why would they say that if the sky is not falling?" questioned Turkey Lurkey. But he could have saved his words because no one was listening to him. And as the crowd stood in the checkout line, everyone's phone pinged an alert, and everyone dropped their eyes to their screens. A Fox breaking news alert. The sky is falling, but we have found someone who can fix it. Going live to a rally at the Hare Towers. The screen cut away to a large hare standing proudly but awkwardly at the top of the stairs, looking down on the panicked animals. Yes, the sky is falling, but only I can fix it. I am the smartest animal here, but to be able to fix this mess, I will need your unquestioning support. So come to Hare Towers, give me your support, and I will fix this mess, he said in front of the cheering crowd. Let's go, said Chicken Little, as Henny Penny, Ducky Lucky, and all their friends ran for the exit. Wait, yelled Turkey Lurkey, this just doesn't seem right. You're just not a believer, said Chicken Little, sprinting away. And Turkey Lurkey just shrugged and went back to his shopping. Well, outside the exit door sat Foxy Loxy, typing on his laptop. Where is everyone going, he asked. We're off to Hare Towers, but none of us seem to know the way. Oh, I know the way, stated Foxy Loxy. I can even show you a shortcut. So Foxy Loxy led Chicken Little, Henny Penny, Ducky Lucky, and all their friends through the bushes and into a tunnel that really looked more like a cave. A little while later, Foxy Loxy returned to Wall Street Mart, wiping his lips on a napkin and burping a big one. He met up with the owner of Wall Street Mart and the hare, who was just arriving by a tinted van. Words and money were exchanged between all three as they laughed aloud. So the moral of this story is darn. Don't let your emotions cloud your thinking. Ask questions like, why would someone say that? What evidence or support do they have for their claim? And who benefits if this claim is true? Remember that no one person can fix or create a disaster without help. And last, never trust the fox. The end. Thank you. So ends our dramatic performance for today. I now invite any children and youth to join me in the West Wing and with Miss Kristen, and we're going to be talking about how assumptions can get us into trouble. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend J. Wolin. I'm the settled minister here at the Unitarian Universalists of Sarasota. Before I share our centering in words today, I just want to take a moment, maybe call it a point of privilege, to recognize the death of our longtime member and community minister and my friend and mentor, the Reverend Brock Leach, who died on May 25th. Brock was just a great guy. And I knew him since I first went into ministry when we were both interns at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa. We've stayed in touch. And he was just a brilliant, nice guy. And it's just somewhat unimaginable that I will not be able to sit and brainstorm ideas with him anymore. And it's a reminder to us of how fragile life can be, and as well a reminder to appreciate every day that we do have. And so now I share the words of Valerie Kaur, a Sikh activist and filmmaker, a prayer to heal the nation. In our tears and agony, we hold our children close today. We confront the truth today. The future is dark. But what if? What if this darkness is not the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb? What if our America is not dead, but a country still waiting to be born? What if the story of America is one long labor? What if all the mothers who came before us, who survived genocide and occupation, slavery and Jim Crow, racism, sexism, xenophobia, Islamophobia, political oppression, sexual assault, are standing behind us now, whispering in our ear, "You are brave"? What if? What if this is our great contraction before we birth a new future? Let us remember the wisdom of the midwife. Breathe, she says, and then push. Tonight, it is time to breathe, but soon it will be time to push. Soon it will be time to fight for those that we love. The Muslim father, Sikh son, trans daughter, indigenous brother, immigrant sister, white worker, the poor and the forgotten. And yes, the ones who cast their vote out of fear. Let us make an oath today to fight for the soul of America. In the word of Langston Hughes, a land that never has been yet, and yet still must be. With revolutionary love and relentless optimism, I pray. And so I pray this Sikh prayer. In the name of the divine, in the name of love within us and around us, we find everlasting optimism. Within your will, may there be grace for all humanity. As we go into a time of silence, I ask you to contemplate all that has been lost and all that still can be. So when I think of prophets, I picture an unkempt figure with wild hair, sort of like me when I wake up in the morning, standing on a street corner yelling that the world is coming to an end and that we should repent our sins. But I would like to look past that picture this morning, because there is a far richer understanding of prophecy, one that can be deeply helpful to our lives and to our world. Our Western religious traditions are filled with prophetic thought. More than half the books of the Hebrew Scriptures are gathered under the headings of the prophets. The stories differ, but the themes recur: condemnation and the threat of punishment for a people who have betrayed their covenant, coupled with an unending assurance of redemption. And through all of it, a relentless focus on how to act justly. Much of the Christian Gospels are the prophetic words of Jesus of Nazareth. And in Islam, Muhammad is known simply as the prophet. Most of these prophetic writings were an attempt to understand how a people had arrived at the moment in history where they found themselves and what they needed to do to change and to change their circumstances. So consider the Hebrew story. After the death of King Solomon around 922 BCE, the kingdom split in two. The northern kingdom was overrun by Assyrians around 722 BCE, and the southern kingdom, which held Jerusalem, was defeated by Babylonia around 586 BCE. And most of its people were forced into exile. Across these centuries, there were shifting alliances, assassinations, and coups, and the prophets advised the leaders: for and against an alliance, for and against war. Now, it is generally believed that some of these scriptures were actually written after the events that they describe. So it is, after all, much easier to be prophetic when you are writing history. So if you would like to know who's going to win the NBA championship between the Knicks and the Spurs, ask me next month, okay? I'm rooting for the Knicks, but I will not prophesize they will win. But here's what the Jewish people were truly reaching for. They were trying to explain how, if their God was all-powerful, that God could allow them to be conquered and deported. And more importantly, they were trying to give their people a vision of hope for a better future and a set of commitments by which to make that future real. We do not, obviously, follow all those covenantal laws of those scriptures or any scripture, but we are still a covenantal people. Our society lives by the rule of law, at least theoretically, and we come together in religious community and decide what is acceptable among us and what is not. And the question that every generation must answer is this: whose vision of the world will come to be? Every day we can turn on the television, the radio, a podcast, and hear someone prognosticate who will win the next election, whether artificial intelligence will save us or destroy us, who had the best outfit at the Met Gala. Lots to choose from. In the book of Micah, there is a sharp condemnation of prophets who shape their word to win favor and money from the powerful. I think we can all name people today who do exactly that, who prophesy for access, for money, for power, in a dog-eat-dog scramble without any care for justice or who gets hurt. So let me be clear about the lesson I take from the prophets. For the sake of our long-term survival, we need to speak out against injustice at its first instant. We need to speak out against the powerful when they harm those without power. We need to hold up a different vision for the world than the one that they proclaim as the only truth. And we need to realize our own power. And we have power if we are willing to risk our safety and use that power. It is looking clearly at the present prophecy. It's not just blind prediction of the future. It's looking at the present, at the way things actually are, and seeing where our current actions will lead. And then it is taking action. You know, we talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy all the time, that when we believe something will happen, we will bend our actions and energy to making it so. And at times, that can be damaging. Like if you tell yourself, I can't do this, you're less likely to do it. But it can also be a healing thing, the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So it all depends on what we set our minds to. So let me offer you a present-day prophecy that I will share. I think this is an easy one. If we do not act, and continue to act, I should say, to reduce greenhouse gases, climate change will keep worsening. And we will face ecological devastation. Right? How many times have we heard this? Right? How many scientists have told us this? And we still hear the false prophets of capitalism that tell us, who say not to worry, the data is wrong, that our own eyes deceive us, that some solution will surely appear. But with every fiber of my being, I believe we must act now, with the knowledge we have now, to prevent all the devastations that are coming towards us. We may learn more in 5, 10, 50 years, but we cannot wait. Now is the time. We cannot wait. But why is it that it often takes a war or a spike in gas prices or an outright catastrophe to move us? We do not have to wait to be frightened into action. We can be proactive. We can think honestly about the kind of world that we want, not only for our children and grandchildren, but for everyone in the world's children. Right? We can and we must all be prophets. We do not have to shout alone from the street corner. We can begin right here in this community, in the congregation in Sarasota, in Southwest Florida. We can do it. We can begin by being firm in our beliefs and naming the future that we long for and taking steps that lead towards it. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition has carried prophetic voices in every age. Michael Servetus, who questioned the Trinity and was burned for it in 1553. Theodore Parker and the Transcendentalist ministers who preached abolition of slavery in the 19th century. We stood for women's suffrage and equal rights. We were in the forefront of the movement for LGBTQ civil rights and marriage equality. We helped create and sustain Earth Day. Again and again, we have given voice to those whom society would silence. And we speak up because it is written into our Unitarian Universalist DNA. That is who we are. But there is a risk to being a prophet. Many of those abolitionist ministers lost their pulpits. Others simply were not heard. As well, if you prophesize, you may end up being proven wrong. And that has to be okay. Or you might be proven right long after the world is ready to hear it. I think of the dawn of the First World War. The Unitarian minister John Haynes Holmes, a pacifist, preached against the war when most congregations supported it. And what was then the American Unitarian Association denied any aid to congregations who did not support the war. Now, his own people stood with him, and the cost was steep. Holmes and the congregation he served had to withdraw from the American Unitarian Association, choosing their conscience over coercion. And that is the cost and the calling. And notice that he, as a prophet, did not bear it alone. Friends, one of the ways we sustain a prophetic community is very simply to sustain it, to support it. A community that means to speak truth to power must also be stable enough to keep speaking. And that is why each Sunday, yes, we collect an offering to support the Unitarian Universalists of Sarasota for the staff, the space, the programs, the justice work that carries our voice into the wider world. So as we receive this morning's offering, I invite you to hold a single question. What vision are we funding into being? For those who are online, there's a link to donate in the description of the YouTube video, as well as there's a QR code in your order of service. Let this sacred time begin. Our next reading is by Dan McCannon from his book, Reclaiming Prophetic Witness. In times like these, prophets must speak loudly, clearly, and with many voices. We need prophets of economics to explain the cascading consequences of inequality and envision workplace democracy and socially responsible investment. We need prophets of science who can track the steady increase in global temperatures, chart its implications, and convey the urgency of those implications to policymakers. We need prophets of the arts to express their vision for social renewing in stirring songs and inspiring stories. We need prophets who testify to the human costs of inequality and oppression and tell their stories of how individuals and communities are fighting back. And of course, we need prophets of faith to bring the rich resources of religion into the struggle, making ancient traditions new by applying them to today's challenges. In times like these, religion can provide us with the words of judgment and speaking truth to power. And now, to hear beautiful music to power, we have our choir.
What would you think if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song, and I'll try not to sing out of key. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. Gonna try with a little help from my friends. I get by with a little help from my friends. What do you do when the day gets you down? Does it make you feel all alone? How do you feel by the end of the day? Are you sad because you're on your own? No, I get by with a little help from my friends. Gonna try with a little help from my friends. I get by with a little help from my friends. Do you need anybody? I need somebody to love. Could it be anybody? I want somebody to love. Can you believe in a love we all share? Yes, I'm certain that it happens all the time. What do you see when you turn out the lights? I can't tell you, but I know it's kind. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. Gonna try with a little help from my friends. I get by with a little help from my friends. Do you need anybody? I need somebody to love. Could it be anybody? I want somebody to love. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. Gonna try with a little help from my friends. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. Yes, I get by with a little help from my friends. A little help from my friends.
So you will remember the street corner prophet that I brought up at the beginning of my first reflection. So I'm going to return to that character briefly because it turns up in a very unexpected place. In the film Life or Something Like It, a self-absorbed reporter is sent to interview a homeless street prophet with wild hair. And on meeting her, he predicts the exact score of that night's football game. And then she asks, whether she will get the big promotion that she is chasing. And he tells her no, and that she will die in 1 week. Now, she really didn't take it too seriously until the football game ends, and it ends in the exact score that the prophet foretold. And so in the week that follows, believing that her life is nearly over, she stops and asks what actually matters to her. And she begins at last to connect with the people who matter most. We could each use a little of that prophecy in our lives together here, to ask what fulfills us in this community, or what could, to truly connect with the people in the seats here, right? To build enough trust with one another that when we do speak, people know our words and are not judgment, but come from our heart. And that even when we disagree with each other, that even when we do that, we can trust that our hopes and our visions are honestly ours and offered in goodness. This movie suggests something that the ancient prophets understood, that before we can change the world, we must first become clear about our own lives. Here is what I have come to believe. The prophet who speaks outward must first listen inward. Rebecca Parker put it beautifully, and I quote, Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, and I quote, "It is a mistake to see the prophet as an isolated, heroic individual. It is better to see them as the crest of a wave," end quote. Even the prophets we most revere were never alone, right? Jesus had his disciples and the multitudes who came to listen. Martin Luther King Jr. had his congregation, the NAACP, the Women's Political Council of Montgomery, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and so many others. It was a movement. The prophet is the visible crest. The wave is the whole community rising up beneath. And I think we see today a more decentralized leadership, but we have to connect all of these different decentralized groups to come together in unity, as opposed to combating each other for whether it's effectiveness or pride or money. So that is why even locally here, I insist that each of our social justice projects have at least 5 people committed to it, so that no one ever stands alone, right? And that's why I insist that each of our social justice projects as well connect with partners, projects to partners with organizations in the community. It is why I care so much about interfaith work. Standing alone, a prophet is lonelier and slower to be heard. Standing together, supported by the congregation and our neighbors, we can take up the prophetic task and actually change the world around us. And this brings me to something the ancient stories can still teach us. Before Babylonia destroyed Jerusalem, many Hebrews actually believed that God quite literally resided in the temple. So when the temple fell and the people were forced into exile, they faced a crisis far deeper than defeat. If God lived in the temple and the temple was now rubble, then where was God now? I think it's a question that people have asked over millennia. Where is God whenever there is suffering? And they could have concluded that God was simply gone. Instead, something extraordinary happened. Their understanding evolved. The holy could no longer be a presence locked in a single building, right? It had to become something that could travel, something carried in covenant, in memory, in justice, in the conduct of a people toward one another. A god you can lose when a building falls is a small god. When they grew into could not be conquered because it lived in how they treated the widow, how they treated the orphan, how they treated the stranger, in the promises that they kept, in the goodness that passed between them. Exile did not shrink their vision, it enlarged it. I find that I have lived a version of that evolution myself. I was raised to imagine the holy in a particular way. Over a lifetime, through my experiences in the world, my time as a chaplain, at the bedside of the dying, through the mindfulness I have practiced through this and previous ministries, I've stopped looking for the sacred in the ways I was taught as a child. I find it now in presence, in relationship, in the work that we do together, in the goodness that arises between people who trust each other enough to tell the truth. So when we speak truth to power, what exactly are we trusting in? We are trusting in the ultimate goodness of humanity, trusting that when our voice is true, other human beings will hear it and respond. And perhaps that trust is itself an evolution of our understanding of what people call God. Perhaps what our ancestors once located in a temple, we may now locate in the prophetic community itself, in what rises between us when we gather, listen, and act as one. For so much that was once called impossible is now simply common knowledge, right? It wasn't that long ago, maybe 500-600 years ago. I know that seems long ago, but in the scope of history, it's not, right? Almost everyone believed that the sun circled the earth, and people were killed for saying otherwise, just like people were killed for not believing in the Trinity, and yet now we who stand here today for hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of years, we still say that. But it took people being killed before it became common and okay. So what we begin today, we must remember, is that over the long arc of time, we can change everything. And we have begun right here in our own community. Ours is a prophetic religion. Our values call us to build a justice-seeking community. Our shared vision calls us to advance justice. Over this past year, our social justice teams have worked hard to discern the real needs of our community, the real needs in community, and how our needs and our skills and abilities and our passions can meet those needs. So now is the time, and we are asking for your help to live out the vision that you, the members of this congregation, voted for, right? This is our identity. This is who we say we are. When someone asks what Unitarian Universalists stand for, let our actions as a congregation answer that question, and let us make it unmistakable. We each carry different gifts, and we can each help in different ways. But first, each of us must find it within ourselves, the words that are meaningful to us, the feelings that bring us wholeness, the purpose that moves us to act. And then, having found it within, we come together connecting with others who hear that same voice and feel that same passion, so that our shared purpose becomes to speak those words and take those actions together until we bring a little more peace, a little more liberty, and a little more justice into this world. May it be so. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, Come and Go With Me. Thank you. Our closing words are from the book of Isaiah, chapter 58. This is the fast that I desire, to unlock the shackles of wickedness, to untie the cords of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. It is to share your bread with the hungry and to take the homeless poor into your home. When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to ignore your own kin. Then your light shall break forth and your healing shall spring up quickly. Now join me, please, as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for your presence here today. Go forth, be just, love all. Thank you.